Welcome to Uniquely Spoken Podcast, empowering healthcare, where transparency sparks transformation. Are you ready to dive into conversations that will spark ideas and inspire action? This is a podcast that refuses to accept the status quo. We'll take an inside look at what's really happening behind the scenes in long-term care settings. We aim to expose critical issues through authentic stories and practical research, uniting nationwide to eliminate alarming outcomes that are existing in long-term care settings nationwide and create safer environments for everyone. All across social media, staff, residents, families, loved ones are showing you transparently the challenges and what is happening inside of these long-term care settings. Uniquely Spoken LLC is pulling back the curtains and calling for a nationwide collaborative action to spark solutions. The time for change is now. This is episode 2, medication management, real struggles, alarming outcomes, and data that speak facts. Part 2. Let's go ahead and dive in. I am Juanita, the founder of Uniquely Spoken LLC. I started this podcast to ignite change in healthcare, starting with long-term care settings. It is time to transform nursing homes and rehabilitation centers, assisted living and memory care communities to all become premier long-term care settings nationwide. It is time for all long-term care settings to receive a 5-star quality and customer service rating. It starts now, and it starts with me. It starts with you, and you. And the time is now. Before we get started, it is important to introduce you to the research team that uncovered alarming facts and risk and safety in long-term care. Who is ABT Associates? They conducted an in-depth study across 31 nursing homes and similar settings, revealing that medication management is one of the most critical aspects underlying resident safety and risk. Their findings helped us to understand where improvements are needed most. You see, ABT Associates is a global research and consulting firm specializing in evidence-based solutions for health, social, and economic challenges. They design and evaluate programs that improve lives. They work with organizations like CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the regulators that oversee nursing home and rehabilitation facilities nationwide. So why did CMS choose ABT Associates to conduct this research? They selected ABT for their proven track record in delivering rigorous, unbiased research, particularly in healthcare systems and long-term care. Their expertise in translating complex data into actionable policy recommendations has consistently driven meaningful change. Over the course of the collaboration, ABT has submitted 3 major reports culminating in the 2024 Nursing Home Staffing Study, which stands as a cornerstone of this effort. So why is the ABT Associates 2024 Nursing Home Staffing Study Comprehensive Report important? It provides comprehensive data and analysis that reveal critical insights into systemic issues within long-term care facilities. Their findings highlighted 1. Structural failures, underlying weaknesses in staffing models and operational practices. Number 2, alarming outcomes were identified in the research. Evidence of safety risk and quality of care concerns tied to inadequate staffing. 3, transparency. Their research helped uncover what was behind the curtains, offering stakeholders and policymakers a clearer picture of the challenges in our long-term care settings. You see, CMS made some key decisions from the nursing home staffing study. ABT recommended an increase in registered nurses and certified nursing assistants and staffing ratios. They suggested for the licensed practical and vocational nurses that there be an inclusion of the staffing ratios with defined minimum for licensed practical and vocational nurses. CMS determined no minimum standard was needed, that 0.48 hours per resident day could be used to meet the demand for the licensed practical and vocational nursing staffing ratios. LPNs and LVNs, licensed practical and vocational nurses, are the nurses most commonly working in long-term care settings with medication management. This is where they are providing essential hands-on care along with medication administration. In contrast, registered nurses, RNs, often serve in leadership roles, overseeing clinical operations, supervising staff, and ensuring compliance with care standards. LPNs and LVNs being set aside and told that they are not setting a minimum staffing standard for LPNs, LVNs. Excluded, LPN, LVNs excluded from staffing ratios, the ones who are managing the most critical aspect in long-term care settings. The time for change is now. LPNs and LVNs, licensed practical and vocational nurses, are the nurses most commonly working in long-term care settings with medication management. This is where they are providing essential hands-on care along with medication administration. In contrast, registered nurses, RNs, often serve in leadership roles, overseeing clinical operations, supervising staff, and ensuring compliance with care standards. LPNs and LVNs being set aside and told that they are not setting a minimum staffing standard for LPNs, LVNs. Excluded. It's time to look at data from a different perspective to determine best practices that will optimize safety for everyone. Inside every long-term care setting, there are hands, hearts, and minds of those who are sharing their stories across social media platforms, the good, the bad, and ugly. It's time to focus on what's truly effective in long-term care settings that are excelling. Let's work together to establish realistic systems and regulations that support quality care. What's working well in your facility? What ideas could spark meaningful change for everyone? And some very disturbing observations were summarized in the ABT Associates report. Pre-preparing medications. During site visits to 31 nursing homes and similar settings, ABT researchers observed licensed nurses often preparing medications, organizing doses ahead of scheduled administration times. This was a time-saving strategy in understaffed environments. Hey, let's go ahead and say it, in staffing ratios. But it raised concerns about safety and compliance. Nurses reported that pre-preparing was sometimes necessary to manage large caseloads and time pressure, especially during peak medication pass times. Who was passing those medications? RNs or LPNs? I can tell you it doesn't matter. The challenge exists with both. The study highlighted this as an example of how staffing shortages and unrealistic expectations lead to workarounds that may compromise quality and safety. Some common clinical care tasks: medication administration and related responsibilities. Licensed nurses must perform multiple time-consuming tasks during medication passes, including resident assessment, monitoring for adverse reactions, documentation, communication. These often overlap with vital signs that must be obtained pre-medicated, labs that must be reviewed pre-medicated, especially for high-risk medications such as anticoagulants, also known as blood thinners, insulin, and opioids, making the process more complex and time-intensive. The ABT Associates study did not directly measure indirect care tasks, assuming instead that any time not spent on direct care was devoted to indirect care. Let's take a look at indirect care. The hidden workload. Nurses often handle indirect care tasks such as care planning, nutritional assistance, coordinating with doctors, managing appointments, updating documentation, and communicating with families and vendors. These responsibilities often happen away from the bedside, yet they're essential for resident safety. This means the true workload and its impact on medication management may be underestimated. Let's talk about the daily struggle, medication management, and similar vulnerabilities. Nursing homes and rehabilitation facilities, assisted living, and memory care communities face immense challenges, often managing 24 or more residents per shift, overseeing certified nursing assistants, documenting care under time pressure, rushing through medication passes to meet regulatory demands, evaluating changes in conditions with timely and required follow-up. These pressures are compounded by unattainable staffing regulations and chronic shortages, forcing nurses to make difficult choices and increasing the risk of errors. Why this matters for medication management and errors. You see, indirect care tasks often compete with medication management for various reasons, impacting time constraints. When staffing is inadequate or staffing ratios are not properly aligned, the nurse or medication aide must constantly switch between direct and indirect care while managing medications. This increases the risk of medication errors, documentation errors, and delayed medication passes. And there are legal risks, lawsuits, and professional consequences to medication management. You see, the scope of the problem is an estimated 800,000 preventable medication-related injuries occur annually in the United States long-term care facilities. Recent litigation trends show large verdicts and settlements ranging from $250,000 to multi-million-dollar awards. Imagine using that amount of settlement to improve our long-term care settings. Nurses are frequently named for errors such as known wrong medication, missed doses, and failure to monitor for side effects. Nurses and administrators are being named in lawsuits. Medication errors are a leading cause of lawsuits. The time is now. Legal trends. Lawsuits for medication errors often cite negligence, inadequate staffing, poor training, or failure to follow protocols. Families have successfully sued for wrongful death, pain and suffering, and additional medical costs. And I'll provide you a few real-world examples. The human cost. An LPN responsible for 28 residents administered morphine overdose. There was medication aid assistance. A settlement of $390,000 and loss of license took place. Case 2. Missed diabetes medication. Dose missed. Resulted in hospitalization and a $2.34 million verdict. Case 3. Missed chemotherapy dose. Fatal complications. $7.6 million settlement. Case 4. Wrong medication administered. Resident's death and $390,000 settlement. The human cost. In closing, medication management is a complex, high-stakes responsibility, the most critical area in long-term care settings. When the system fails to support nurses and administrators, the consequences are not just numbers, they're lives. Let's work together to drive transparency, advocate for realistic standards, and transform care for everyone. If you're a nurse or administrator, what changes do you recommend that has worked for you? Share your stories. If you don't want to put it into the social media chat, follow over to my website. There is a contact us page. We love hearing from you. Thank you again for joining us. We broadcast every Tuesday, 5:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m., 3:30 p.m., 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to allow accommodations for all time zones. Now, don't forget to tune in next week. This will be an interesting episode. Episode 3, Medication Management, a touch of reality, the nurse's journey. Thank you for joining us on Uniquely Spoken LLC podcast. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Remember to connect with us. Follow, comment, share, be a guest, subscribe. Visit us at uniquelyspokenllc.com/podcast. That's llc.com/podcast. Or if you are a viewer, scan our QR code. Please remember to stay informed, stay empowered, and keep the conversation going. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next week.